And then a bright light appeared. As Beowulf said, "I am determined to seek my revenge for every gross act Grendel has committed." He raised his sword and swung it fiercely and stated, "I saw how the monster laid in his resting place, war-weary and wrecked, a lifeless corpse, a casualty of the battle in Herat." Beowulf then beheaded Grendel's corpse, cleanly slicing the blade through the neck. The head began to gush blood. Beowulf looked at the blood spewing from the head and said, "This decapitation is a repayment for all the lives that Grendel took." On land, the Dane counselors were still keeping a lookout for Hrothgar. The counselors noticed blood spewing from the depths. Now, back to Beowulf. As the blood continued to run, Beowulf noticed that his sword was melting from the poisonous blood of the monster. He gripped his melting sword in one hand and held on to Grendel's head in the other. As they thought he was lost in the depths of the monster, one counselor turned and noticed Beowulf emerging from the lake. The counselor stood and shouted, "Beowulf, it's you! Let us all return to Herat." Beowulf climbed up onto the shore. The counselors took off his armor and cheered triumphantly that their champion had returned victoriously. They all began to head back to Herat. Men began to greet the counselor and Beowulf as they headed towards Herat. As the men, counselors, and Beowulf entered Herat, the other people began to gawk in horror at the sight of the head. People began talking about Beowulf's strength and the beast's head. Once Beowulf made it down the hall, he began to speak of what had happened to Hrothgar. He spoke about beheading the monster. Hrothgar praised Beowulf for his bravery against Grendel and his mother, but also warned him of the dangers of pride. After they had spoken about this for a while, Beowulf was ready to party. Beowulf, Hrothgar, and the Geats partied all night. They were all thankful to Beowulf for defeating Grendel and his mother, and now party in peace. Beowulf became tired and told Hrothgar he was leaving. Hrothgar bid Beowulf a tender adieu. "Good night, Beowulf. You have united the Geats and the Danes as friends through your heroic deeds.